Hey detectorists, welcome to the Metal Detecting Show episode 2. My name is Kieran and this week I am going to review the Nokta Makro PulseDive. We also chat about beach detecting and some global news of the day. So let's get to it. Hey everybody, my name is Kieran and welcome to the Metal Detecting Show episode number 2. This week I want to talk to you about beach detecting. Now I love metal detecting on a beach. You never know what you're going to find from one day to the next. For example, I have found 1850 mini balls to gold rings, and because of this I feel beaches are my comfort zone when detecting. This week I'm going to give you 3 extensive tips on hunting a beach, including how to prepare and what to look out for when you're there. Tip number 1. Plan your trip. Probably the most important step in any detecting trip, but this is an essential step when beach detecting. You need to plan which beach you're detecting, why you're detecting there. For example, has there been a heat wave and has there been hundreds of people on the beach recently? You need to know when to hit the beach. Ideally you want to hit at low tide after the crowds have left, so know your high tide and low tides and the period of time between. Planning your trip may be determined by the weather. I love, for example, hunting after a wild Atlantic storm because sometimes all the golden sand is ripped from the beaches, leaving a layer of gravel trenches full of finds and treasure. Know the weather forecast and judge how this will affect the tides. Will you need sunblock or wet gear, for example? And know the law. Do you need a permit to search your planned beach? Understand beach flags and be safe. Let someone know where you are going and stay focused at all times. Some beaches can be very dangerous with freak waves and strong currents. Tip number 2. Gather your equipment. Read your manuals and bring them on the day. You may need them. Make sure you are familiar with how to set up your detector for beach hunting. Ask yourself, is your detector suitable for saltwater beaches? Some great detectors for beach hunting are 1. The Minelab CTX 3030, best option for all-round beach hunting. The Garrett ATX, superior depth but not as great discrimination. 3. The Minelab Excalibur 2, best for deep water and diving. 4. Fisher CZ21, great for deep water and diving, but no target ID. 5. The Garrett Sea Hunter, most affordable but lacks discrimination features. Minelab seem to have the saltwater detecting down to a fine art. I could include the Equinox 800 or 600 here. Most detectors are fine for freshwater beaches though. What accessories are you going to bring? Of course, the pinpointer. Ensure that it is waterproof. You can waterproof your pinpointer by putting it in a plastic bag, or as some people do, seal with hot glue. A scoop, of course. This is a must-have. Not only speeds up your find recovery time, it will also save your back. Investing in a good stainless steel version with a long handle is worth every penny. A horry knife. I like to bring my horry knife for when I'm noodling around rock pools. This will save you a lot of frustration when trying to tickle out a coin from a rock crack. A pouch. This goes without saying. I bring 1 or 2 for finds and 1 for rubbish. Gloves. Some light neoprene gloves will extend the life of your bare hands in wet sand, but will be short-lived. Spare batteries if your detector needs them, but definitely if your pinpointer needs them. A camera if you're going to video. If you're a budding YouTube star, don't forget all the camera accessories also. GPS. If the beach is off a beaten track, or if you know the coordinates of an area you shouldn't detect in, but these are mainly to help you log your finds location. A phone in case of emergencies, always keep safe. A key safe. No one ever thinks what to do with their car keys till they are all suited and booted up, about to hit the beach. This is a must, and I invested in one after spending 15 minutes one day digging up a signal picked up by my pocket emanating from my car keys. Food and drink goes without saying. Whatever tickles your fancy, just to take the hunger off. Not to fill you up, because all you want to do after a full lunch is sit, and more likely you'll wrap up early. Spare headphones. Now, I normally use wireless headphones, but inevitably these have a tendency of going dead when you least want them to, so I always pack a wired set of headphones to suit my detector. Look out for a future tech timeout on headphones. A spare detector. This may be only in the scope of more tenured detectorists, but I do carry a spare detector in the boot of my car just in case. A harness if you need it. If you're rocking the CTX 3030 from Minelab, you will need the harness, otherwise your day will be cut short from fatigue. And of course, before you leave, test your detector. The last thing I do before I pack my car is I check my detector, headphones and pinpointer. Tip number 3, assessing and hunting the beach. Some people like to grid a beach. Gridding a beach will only work between tides on the same day, so if you can grid a whole beach between tides, then have at it. However, as soon as that tide comes in, it will change the beach and shift sands and fines in and out of your grids. I like to maximize my probability of finding the best finds on the beach in any one day. Some days that's a stack of quarters, but other days it will be a nice piece of jewellery, most likely a ring or chain. I am not one of those grid people. I like to be methodical when assessing a beach. So firstly, I get to high ground. This allows me to see the full aspect of the beach. From here, hopefully I can see where people enter and leave the beach and see where they sit, the high tide and low tide lines, where the sand has been eroded away to reveal gullies and troughs and scallops of sand, where people like to sit in the sand or where they go to have a bit of privacy. On setting up my detector, I always set my discrimination to 0. I want to dig everything on a beach. As a medium, sand is constantly changing, and with discrimination set even to a minimum, you will lose out on potential valuable objects, so dig everything. I always hit gullies of eroded sand first, if any. These are hotspots for any potential high-density small objects that have moved through the sand only to sit on top of the hard-packed gravel and sand below. Why I refer to high-density materials? If you think about gold, for example, it has a relative height density of 19.32 grams per centimeter cubed, or 0.7 of a pound in an inch cube. And conversely, aluminum has a relative low density of 2.7 grams per centimeter cube, or 0.1 of a pound of an inch cube. Considering also, in society, gold, silver, etc. exists in smaller amounts, while aluminium and iron is abundant and exists in large objects like soda and beer cans on the beach. So, if you consider why quarters come to the top of your change can when you shake it, large items have a habit of coming to the top of the sand too. This is why you will see experienced detectors happy when they start to find lead sinkers on a beach, as lead is a similar density as gold silver and exists in similar size range but is plentiful on a beach. You can use lead as an indication of where there may be gold silver objects on the beach. If there is no eroded gullies or cuts in the sand, I will attack the beach by first dissecting the beach in two and start searching perpendicular to the tide lines till I find either a gold, silver or copper object, but normally it's a lead sinker. At this point I will turn horizontal to the tide lines and traverse the length of the beach, making sure to cover both halves of the dissected beach. Some people like to do a spiral search pattern when they have a good find, but I have quite a large swing. I find it quicker to do a quick few swings in the area, then reset again along my line, horizontal to the tide lines, and continue. Once I have completed this stage, or when tides have pushed me from the wet sands to the dry sands, I tend to look towards where people have been sitting, either on blankets or picnic benches, etc., and I hit those areas. Finally, then I make my way from the beach, searching along the way to ensure to cover the entrance or exit of the beach. Ensure to consider where there are potential pockets of finds, for example near or under piers. Check both sides of the groins where coin pockets can form. Take your time in these areas, as too much speed may mean the difference between a good day and a very good day. Some people like to search in around fire pits. For me, I tend to avoid these areas. There is no reason why you should and couldn't find some great finds here, but I feel the return of investment for effort is seldom rewarded here. If you bring a horry knife or a small trowel, a good spot to hit on a beach is amongst the rocks, but can be extremely frustrating if trying to dig with a scoop, for example. And finally, remember, you represent all metal detectorists. When you are metal detecting on the beach, follow the rules of beach etiquette and the rules of metal detecting etiquette. Both are important. Remember your fellow beachgoers. Inevitably, you will be approached by curious bystanders, so remember to always be courteous. I wouldn't recommend to show off what you have found that day, as that will always lead to either a negative response along the lines of hardly worth your time, etc. Always fill in your holes and take your trash away too. Be kind to the beach and the beach will be kind to you. Okay guys, here's my review of the PulseDive by Nokta. Firstly, this is not a paid endorsement of the PulseDive. The unit I'm reviewing I purchased myself prior to a recent vacation and have used it several times since. Priced at £179.99 English pounds, which is equivalent to about €200 and about $225. My initial thought, this is quite expensive for what is essentially a pinpointer, but I was pleasantly surprised when I unboxed the PulseDive, as it came with an extensive range of accessories including the PulseDive handheld unit itself, an underwater search coil, a coil cover, pinpointer probe head, pinpointer protection shell, a battery cap for land use, a belt holster, security lanyard, USB cable, spare O-rings, a rubber connector cover, a hard shell carry case, and obviously the manual. Technically speaking, this is a pulse induction detector with an operating frequency of 3 kHz. Its stated waterproof rating is IP68, which is up to 60 meters or 200 feet. It has a built-in wireless module which is compatible with the Nokta Makro 2.4 GHz Green Edition wireless headphones. It also offers several detection alert modes including audio, vibration, audio plus vibration, LED, and comes with 5 sensory levels. It is available in 2 colours, black and bright yellow, and of course I went for the bright yellow. My initial impressions were very good, as build quality seems excellent. The PulseDive feels quite substantial to the touch. Charging was very simple, just plug in the included micro USB cable to one of your existing wall chargers. This is something I'm glad of, not receiving another wall charger. I would imagine we all have plenty, however, using an old style micro USB cable was quite unusual. My initial charging took approximately 2 hours, but this can be dependent on what rating your wall charger has. My first trip out while using it was snorkeling directly off a beach but keeping within a depth of 3 feet. I did feel like a bit of a dope walking down the beach waving it about, as the bright yellow did seem to capture some attention. However, once I was floundering about the 3-foot waves on a pretty busy beach like a beached whale, I soon forgot my initial embarrassment, but still kept an eye out for some Japanese whale trawlers. I have to say the PulseDive performed brilliantly on my first trip out. I found a stack of cheap jewellery, with the best being a man's large titanium ring. Not bad for a first trip. I went on to use it every day for about 2 weeks on vacation, and it performed without fail and was simple to use, so much so my 7-year-old son was soon able to head off and use it for himself. Never once did it feel fragile, and battery life was beyond what I was capable of doing in one day. On returning from vacation, I decided I would try the PulseDive out as a pinpointer, utilising the pinpointer probe head. However, this did not go as well. Firstly, it interfered really badly with my Equinox 800 detector, sending it into a vibration beat frenzy. I also found that the sensitivity was hit or miss with the PulseDive when checking a hole. I found that it couldn't indicate quickly where the object sat within the hole. I assumed both issues were down to the sensitivity being turned up to the max, but when I reduced the PulseDive down, it either continued to go crazy or refused to detect the find at all. I very quickly changed back to my regular pinpointer. Saying that, I did not buy the PulseDive as a pinpointer. I bought it to use as a scuba snorkel detector. I have to say it did not disappoint. I really enjoyed this detector and look forward to using it again in the future. It is a great addition to any detectorist's arsenal, and I would have no trouble recommending it. However, in writing this review, I of course dug out the PulseDive detector to go through the motions and refresh myself of my opinion, only to find that it wouldn't power on. Despite repeated attempts to charge with different wall charger units, my PulseDive is still dead. I suspect that the minimum charge level of the LiPo battery has exceeded and may need a jump start or replacing. I have opened a support case with Nokta and will update you all with what occurs in future episodes. Okay, global news from the world of metal detecting. Members of the UK public have uncovered a record number of historic discoveries last year. According to a new report from the British Museum, amateur treasure hunters registered a whopping total of 81,602 finds with the British Museum's Portable Antiquities programme in 2019, including some 1,311 high-value pieces of treasure. You can read the full story on artnet.com. Links are in the show notes. Treasure hunter dies after being stranded in the Utah wilderness. Two snowmobilers set out in the unpredictable climate and harsh terrain of the Utah's Dinosaur National Monument just as a winter storm was moving through last week, on the hunt for a legendary $2 million booty hidden somewhere in the Rocky Mountains by an eccentric antiquities dealer named Forrest Fenn. Check out the full story on theweather.com. Links are in the show notes. And finally, a couple are reunited with their wedding ring after 20 years when Tyrone Holman finds it while metal detecting. A couple who said they had given up on trying to find their lost wedding ring has been reunited 20 years on thanks to the Suffolk metal detector. Check out the full story in the East Anglian Daily Times. Links are in the show notes. That's it for this week's news roundup, guys. As with all our stories that we talk about, the links are in the show notes. If I have to say links are in the show notes one more time, the links are in the show notes. That's it for episode number 2, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed producing it for you. Next week in episode number 3, we talk about what to do during isolation caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Chat to you soon and happy hunting.